the TIMFD podcast. Today is my favorite day is about appreciating every day as it comes, no matter what life throws at us. We hope that this podcast speaks to you. And if it does, please like, share, and comment. Now let's find out why today is our favorite day this week.
Hello, everybody. This is me, and that is her. Okay, let's just go over the names real quick. This is Alexus. Say hi, Alexus.
Hi.
Alexus is our children's minister here, but a whole lot more than that. She'll talk about that. But what we want to do today is talk about something I know is near and dear to your heart. Mine too, but I'm a couple of generations away from you, which is the whole idea of the Gen Z world and what's going on with that and what's going on with our culture and how that generation, which you're at the very end of it, would you call yourself for that?
A bubble generation.
Okay.
So when generations meet in the middle, they give a couple of years of overlap if you're on either side of that seam line. So if you're a couple years Gen Z or you're a couple years in the millennial, and I fall like
right in the middle, right?
Just right in the middle. So I'm a little bit millennial and a little bit Gen Z, and I find that to be true for myself. I'm about 50-50. I don't like fully relate to millennial stuff, and I don't fully relate to Gen Z stuff either.
Yeah. So you're kind of that odd bird in the middle.
Yes.
But I know you have a passion for wanting to see the Gen Z and really the millennials come to Jesus and make some good decisions. For me, I want to see those generations. I want to see the X generation, something happen with them. And my wife is at the very top. She's at the bubble of that. I'm in the bubble of the boomers right on there. So, that's how old I am. So we want to see people come to Christ. It's just, how does that happen? And then how does that make a difference in their lives? So first of all, Gen Z, it's a different type of population. It's about 13 to 29, right around there, somewhere around that. Okay. So can you tell me some characteristics of this generation and what they're going through and what they have had to experience with their parents and that kind of thing? So just generally.
Yeah, I think the big thing to remember about Gen Z is that they don't remember a post-internet world. So they don't remember a time without computers and cell phones and being able to get a hold of other people even when you can't see them. They don't remember a time that didn't exist for them.
So are you one of those persons?
I am.
Wow. So you don't remember like the rotary phone and all that kind of stuff, or you remember seeing it on TV and that kind of stuff?
I do not remember rotary phones personally. Obviously I've seen them on TV, but I don't remember them personally. I remember having a home phone, like a landline as a kid, but it was a digital. It was a digital. It was the handheld that you could walk around with. It did not have a cord.
No cords, huh?
Yeah, no cords. Those were not a thing. And I remember even talking to my mom about cell phones, and she was telling me that cell phones used to be in these giant bags. That was way before me. So what I remember is us always having like handheld phones.
Did you guys have, I don't know if you guys had these, but the answering machines, they had to make a copy, a thing on it. Do you remember those?
We actually did. We did have an answering machine in our kitchen, but I like briefly remember it. So we couldn't have had it for very long. But just briefly. Okay.
So I want to get this across to those who are maybe my generation, maybe X generation. They're kind of going, wow, okay, so you guys are like high octane communication people, because that's what you're used to.
Connection. I would say connection.
Okay, connection. So you're used to everything being right there.
Yeah,
correct?
Connection's very, very important.
Okay, can you explain that? And before we go into that, so I want you to think about that. I want to read a verse to you because every generation, and the generations before the generations have a tendency to not listen. So give you an example. My generation is going, you guys listen to us. We've been through some stuff. And that's true. We've been through some stuff. But you know what? That generation that's below us in age has gone through a whole lot of stuff that we haven't really don't understand as kids. So I want to keep this in mind for us. And this is out of 1 Timothy 4:11 and 12. So when you're hearing her, and you happen to be my age, maybe a little younger than my age or a little older, that when you're hearing that, I want you to listen to this. It says, and this is Paul speaking to Timothy, command and teach these things. Don't let anyone look down on you because you are young. Okay? But set an example for the believers in speech, in conduct, in love and faith, and in purity. So there's an action that has to be seen, right? And that's what he's asking for. So with Alexus here, what we want to do is learn from her and then what the challenge would be if you know generations below you, that you go start asking questions.
Right.
Right? Wouldn't that be the big thing?
Yeah.
Okay, so Gen Z, let's just go on some, because I don't totally understand them.
Right.
I have grandsons in there, so I kind of get it a bit. And they happen to be in their 20s and late teens. Tell me what is so unique of this generation first.
I think that what is unique for them is every generation is passionate about different things. So I would say they're very passionate about connection, which we just mentioned, this like constant communication that they've grown up with and is really normal for them. They care a lot about that and making sure that happens. But it's not just connection. They really care that it's real connection. Okay. So our church uses the word authenticity a lot. Sure. And that is really important to this generation. Okay. They want connections that are authentic. Okay. And they want truth. And they want to know that you're not going to be fake to them. Yeah. They want the reality of the situation. Yeah. So they don't do well with a lot of fluff. Yeah. And I think that every generation is also a reaction to the generation before them.
It is.
So because I am a little bit millennial too, I can relate to some of that. I think that in the millennial generation, there is a little bit more fluff. We were a little more comfortable with some fluff and looking a certain way.
There was a mask in that generation.
Yeah.
That all generations have them, but it seemed to be a little bit more prevalent in that generation.
I think presentation was a little bit more important to millennials than it is to Gen Z. Yeah. I think that Gen Z values reality over presentation. Sure. And we also see like reality TV shows are probably more important to their generation than they might have been to the previous generations. It might be something they keep up with a little bit more. Not that we all can't enjoy them or whatever, but we're just seeing different trends. So we also, the difference between like celebrities and micro influencers, the reason that older generations are more attracted to celebrities is because that the media was at a different stage.
They were on TV, on movies.
Correct. So now these kids have grown up, again, with computers and tablets and phones and this constant connection, and they want realness. They want authenticity. So they are more drawn to these micro-influencers like YouTubers and people who are Instagram influencers and things like that. So they are more drawn to people who've gotten famous on TikTok. And sometimes those people do become celebrities. And a couple of examples of those are like Mr. Beast, Justin Bieber, and they may follow their fame even as they become celebrities, but part of the reason they're drawn to them is because they think that they were found in a real setting.
Oh, okay.
So they found their fame came to them because they were being their real self. Okay. On social media, and someone found them, a scout found them and helped them grow to be the celebrity. And I think that the assumption is that other celebrities, older celebrities, they were trained. They went to school to be actors and singers and performers. And that's how they made their way. They got listing agents and all of that. And they made their way through a company or something like that. They didn't find their way because they were being authentically themselves.
Okay.
So
wow,
that's the difference.
I like that. Actually, I'm drawn to that. So that's interesting. I know for me personally, and that's been a problem in my generation, the authenticity, to be honest with oneself and honest with other people, not a big turn on. When Tanya and I were starting the church so many years ago, I had men that were frustrated with how I treated my wife, how I talked with her, and how I wanted to hear her. And I had men say that I was whipped, and that, I'm not being the man of the home. My wife obviously always jokes about that. You're the one that's going to be responsible to God in this family. And I know. And so the decisions were made with both of us. But if there was a decision that had to be made by one of us, she would just go, boom, you're doing it, and I would obviously listen to her and go through all that process. But many of those men are now divorced. And that's 27 years later. And I know that that's been a turnoff. Right. But I know that that's the only way Tanya and I can relate. We both come from Vegas and San Francisco. Right. So there may have been some of that going on there. But with you guys, with this generation right now, it's hard to grasp onto the YouTube world, and hard to at least in my mind, I'm trying to. Right. But it's so different because everything's so fast. Yes. And is that that generation is kind of known for that too?
Yes. Yes. So
Okay.
if you are used to TikTok or YouTube or any of that, then you know the videos are usually under a minute. So,
under 30 seconds now. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. So, and there have been some changes to that. They've, like TikTok allows you to make a video up to 3 minutes now. Yeah. So there have been some changes to that, but that's also part of the reason it is kind of addicting, because it's like a quick dopamine hit and it makes it hard to stop. But yeah, so they really quick, fast-paced things, and really there's a lot of research behind how that had started with the social media movement of keeping people intrigued in their phone and not getting off to stay and to continue to scroll. But that has affected so much of their culture that it does spill over into other things, like how we teach, how we preach here at church, all of those things. Like, it really has affected the rest of culture because technology is such a big part of their world. They literally don't know a world without it. Yeah. So if that is what they have learned there, it has spilled over into every other part of our life also.
Yeah, definitely have noticed that. And that quickness, that movement, how has that affected them positively? Mm-hmm. And how has that affected them negatively? Now, I know other generations, there's different people, the outliers that are in different generations that may act just like someone that's in the Gen Z world, that, just everything's fast. Because I know some guys my age that just fly through stuff, right? I mean, they love it. And so what would be the positives and negatives to that?
So I think the positive thing that I see, and this is actually something that's really inspires me about their generation, is I think they're easily adaptable to change. Okay. So I think most people struggle with change. Yeah. Like overall, especially as adults, change is hard. Mm-hmm. Change is hard for us. It feels scary sometimes. It can make us insecure. It might feel unstable. And I think this generation doesn't know much else. I think that they have had so much change. Things have changed so much throughout all of the things that they've already lived through. So just speaking from experience, we talked a little bit about technology. Most recently, our country is very divided politically. Yep. Everybody knows the huge pandemic that our country went through. Mm-hmm. We've had so many big changes, even just recently. So think about kids who are younger than I am. We talked about like 18-year-olds.
Absolutely.
If you think about that is the past 10 years of their life.
I know, it's crazy. They've gone through a lot.
They only know those things. Yeah. And if you think, so from the time that they were maybe 8, all they have known is all of the unrest that for us has been recent. It is their whole life. So they've constantly been adapting to the changes that have happened. And it does feel differently in perspective for us because we have a longer experience to pull from, but it is all that they know. So that is what I think is positive. I think that they're quick to change. I think they aren't as resistant to change as those of us who are older.
I think it's great.
I think that their ability to pivot is a big positive for them because, again, I think it's all they know, and they've turned it into a strength instead of a weakness.
Well, and in church, that's a wonderful thing for a pastor who likes to move and wants to have change take place. I remember when the first time we went to 2 services, we had people leave the church because we were changing.
Right.
We changed colors of things and people would leave because it's changing. Oh, it's killing me. This generation, they love everything that's being changed. I'm going, this is great. Yeah. This is a great generation for that because you can keep moving.
Yeah. Right? So I think, and because of that, because they are willing to change and make different choices, I think they have a smaller fear of risk. Yeah. Like their fear of risk is a lot less. Yep. Because so what? We'll try again.
Correct.
We'll try something else. Correct. We'll try something new. And maybe we can try this again in 3 years.
Yes.
They just aren't as fearful of it as some of us can be.
Yeah, so. Go for it. And if it doesn't work, it's not a failure. It's just learning from. That's Elon Musk, right? The famous line of him. Hey, I just found another way not to do the thing, right?
Yep, you still learn from it.
Okay, so what would be a negative of that fast pace so people here could understand that?
So I think the downside to it is that they're easily bored.
Okay.
So there are lots of things, and especially those of us who are adults and those of us who are older adults, there are lots of parts, I think of Christianity when I think of this a lot. There are lots of parts of being a Christian that are mundane. Yeah. That are just doing the next logical right step. Sure. And they aren't swept up in emotion or passion, or there isn't some huge fun reward at the end. There isn't this constant changing. Sometimes it's a grind. Sometimes it's a day to day. You're doing the same thing. Hopefully it's the next right thing, in and out, in and out. And that is part of life. Not all of life can be these huge ups and downs. No. Like there are lots of steady, maintained things, and those are healthy. We need to have those in order to experience those great highs and to sustain us through the really hard lows. Yeah. And I think that they struggle with those mundane times.
Yeah.
And even just working with, especially our teenagers. I volunteer in our high school ministry and I get to oversee our middle school ministry. But even with the teenagers, I feel like normally I would expect that they would struggle the most in their hard times. And I think not that they don't struggle, but I think that they actually struggle more when there is nothing.
It's the desert times. That's what I call them. And
yes,
the desert times are very difficult, especially if you're a mover.
Yes.
And that
they want to take action.
That's the battle of the blahs, I call it for me. It's just or the meh.
Yes.
Just
and
what do I do?
There are so many seasons of your life where you aren't to take action. You're actually called to plan and prepare right now.
Correct.
And it may seem like a season of inaction, but it's not. Like God is moving all things that maybe you can't even see happening. He's moving and preparing other people who are a part of your journey for this next step. And your job is to be patient and wait for that next step.
Yeah.
And really acting too quickly can ruin it or can mess something up or can actually hurt instead of help.
Yep.
So I think that they're struggling with that. And I think that's what they need us for, is the guidance to make sure that, yes, I think they need affirmation, I guess is the right word. They need affirmation that, no, this is the time to rest. This is the time to wait. This is the time to prepare. This is the time to plan. That there's no reason to rush ahead and try to, you have graduation in May and they're wanting to leave now.
Yeah.
They're ready for it now.
Yeah.
Let's go now.
Yeah.
But there's a reason you don't graduate until May and you're not supposed to be there until then.
Well, Jalen Hurts, you watched the Super Bowl at your house. I went to a Super Bowl party at a different person's house. Thank you for inviting us, though. But you guys had the younger people. I went to where the older people were, right?
Yeah.
Mostly the men's ministry over at the other one. What was interesting about Jalen Hurts, as he said after they won, and he was the winning quarterback for the Eagles. They said, what does this mean to you? And he goes, I went through he's 25 years old.
Yes.
So he's younger than you.
Yeah.
He's actually right in the middle of this generation.
Yeah.
And he said, the difficulties and the disappointments have made me the man I am today. And I have taken it, I have thought it through, and I held on that, and it made a fire in me to go and do this.
Yeah.
And I went, that sounds like my generation. It really was interesting to hear.
Yeah.
But he understood the whole move. He goes, instant gratification, he even brought up one time, instant gratification doesn't work.
No.
And he goes, especially in sports or in life, there's times where you got to grind. And he's grasped onto that as a person in this Gen Z, and he's obviously honed it down because he's a Super Bowl champion quarterback and the MVP of the game. So this generation can hone that speed in and all that information, all that stuff, and hone it in and succeed like crazy, correct? I mean, that's something that, we're going to see the next Elon Musks coming out of this generation, even greater out of this generation. Also, I believe the greatest evangelists are coming out of this generation, I believe. I believe it's going to be an amazing, I'm just looking to see if I could be a part of just being on the wave behind them, kind of catching it and going, okay, buddy, go. Or go, girl, do whatever you need to do to get out there and tell people about Jesus.
Right.
So, we have that. You talked about connectivity.
Yes.
Can you explain that a little bit more too?
Yes. So this idea that they don't remember a time when they couldn't connect with someone they couldn't physically see.
Okay.
So obviously like texting and calling even when somebody is not here. So while those points of connections are important to them, which is why there are so many social platforms now, they have like one of every thing. They have a profile on everything that's possible, except for maybe Facebook because that's for old people.
It is.
So they have a social media profile and all these things. Most of them still text and call. Like they're fine to do that too. They prefer to like DM through Instagram sometimes.
That's something I still don't really understand, but okay, I get it.
It's just cool because it's through the social platform.
Okay.
It's just, So, and especially when a new one comes out, it'll be the new thing, and that's what they want to go. So like
Snapchat
Threads
and all that kind of stuff.
No, and Snapchat's pretty old. A lot of them do still Snapchat.
Of course, I just heard it from my grandsons. I never used it.
But so Threads is similar to Twitter, but Threads, Instagram owns it, or Meta owns it. But it's like the Instagram version of Twitter, so that's newer.
Okay.
So that is kind of popular right now. But anyway, so while these are important, they still really value in-person connection too. So I think that's part of the reason we're seeing such a movement of this movement of Christianity, because I think that they need in-person connections, and they're finding that at their local churches. Yeah. And I think that the part of me that is millennial, I think that we were comfortable online. I think that part of us liked online because, again, it let us put that presentation aspect forward. Yep. And it was everyone could think that we had it all together and this is how our life was and everything was prim and proper. And on the outside looking in, it looked great. And in person, it's a lot harder to maintain that because you can see, if I am not a perfect parent, and you can see if I, don't look just perfect and have, don't have my Instagram filter on my photo. Yep. So there's a difference there. Whereas Gen Z, because they do care so much about this authenticity, this connection, they need more than just online. Like this generation has realized like online is great and we're so grateful for it. It's been a part of our lives as long as we've known, but they really value these in-person connections also. And I think that's part of the reason that we have a young adults group here at the church that we just started. And the first thing we did was a retreat, and we had 9 people go. And this was a ministry that didn't exist before. Right. So I really wasn't expecting much at all. I didn't, I was like surprised. I thought it might just be like me and my husband and Alex. Sure. But we ended up having 9 people go, which was great. It was like actually a group.
More there that can get in.
There's actually about 20 of us. Yeah. So, but anyways, there's already, I think they flock to things like that because they want to get to know you. They want to spend one-on-one time with you. They, I think that it depends. Everyone is a little different, but I am noticing, especially, I think that some of like millennials, when I talk to them, like avoid eye contact, but I can talk to a Gen Z and they will look at me in the eyes. Yeah. But, and I think that I remember hearing from old people that they were like, nobody looks me in the eyes. But I think that was like a millennial thing. It drove me nuts. And Gen Z, I think because they really do value this in-person connection at the same level they value an impersonal connection, meaning online. They value them the same instead of putting one over the other. They do. I think
so. It's and.
Yeah, and correct. That's a better way to say it. So it's and. They value both. And for the most part, it feels pretty equal to me. Obviously, that's going to be personal with each kid, or adult. But that it feels, it feels like it's pretty equal.
Okay, the and. That's important for me to know because I've been using a lot of texts with my grandsons, and I know my daughters, at least the youngest one, respond a lot to those texts. My oldest, not so much. And that's just kind of where she was at just generally because she's a little older in the X world. But this group, they like the FaceTime.
I would say FaceTime. So I think that it was phone calls for a long time, right?
No, not phone calls.
I think FaceTime. I think it was phone calls for a long time, and then it was text messages, and now it's FaceTime. I want to see you. I want to see your facial expressions. And I literally just told a coworker before I walked over here, I don't think that I explained myself well over our emails. So can I explain this to you in person? Because I want to make sure that we're not missing each other here. I don't want to have any miscommunication. But it's the same thing as texting. It's hard to read tone of voice. So, and while it's easier to do that on a phone call than it is over a text, for some reason, FaceTime is, I want to see you.
The texts are for us right now at the grandsons, Caleb, Cohen, and Kate, this is what I read today. It's information. Right. Hey, this is what I read in the Bible today. What did you read? And that was pretty much it. Keeping accountable. Did you get your workout in? Did you get to the gym? Kind of a deal. Yeah. So what I need to do, and this is kind of helpful to me, what I need to do is do more FaceTime. Right. Because I'm doing the text all the time, but I need to do the FaceTime. Got it. Yeah,
and I would say text or maintenance. Like, that's how I think of it. It's like a maintenance thing. Like, we're going to continue our communication, but like FaceTime is more quality.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So with this, we hit 23 minutes. Do you even know we did that? Okay. So what we'll do is we'll have you on a different time to talk some more about this. This is your bag. This is kind of your thing, your scene. And I know I'm learning from you. So that makes it kind of nice for me to kind of go, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to do this? Yeah. I love the idea of getting a group of people that are, from early teens to mid-teens to 20s to 30s to 40s, putting them together and coming up with creativity again. Yeah. So I'm excited about that because that to me would be a fun group to work with. Yeah, it'd be a really fun group to work with because you kind of go, okay, what next? What are we going to do? So I'm excited about that. But what I'm really excited about is that this generation has the opportunity to do amazing things. Yeah. amazing things.
They will.
Yeah. And it's one of the most Christian, if you want to call it,
right,
generations that we've ever seen. Barna put did their big survey.
Gen Z study.
Yeah, Gen Z study. And 42% of them listen to Christian music, which was when Christian music when I say Christian rock music started coming, which is nothing like today, but when it came out, there was only a handful of us that were listening to that stuff.
Right.
And people would go, what are you listening to? And, I was going, I'm listening to Petra, or, and you don't know, most of people won't know who that is. Amy Grant, those kind of people, Michael W. Smith. Now it's amazing what's going on.
Yep.
And there's something going on in this time frame that's real exciting.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that authenticity is what they're wanting, and we could just be raw with everybody and be honest with our pain and hurt, but also our victories.
Yep.
And my hope is that we'll see a lot of people come to Christ, but also a lot of great preachers and teachers and musicians and singers that will change the world.
Yeah.
Right? That's our kind of hope. High five?
Yep.
All right. Today is my favorite day. Thank you for being here.
We'll
get you again. Hopefully we'll get Tanya and some others on as well. Guys, take it easy. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to TIMFD, Today is My Favorite Day. Views, comments, and opinions are those of the host and guest alone, and Dave and Sam are solely responsible for the content of this podcast. TIMFD is produced and directed by Alex Korn. Thank you for listening. Have a great day, live intentionally, and be very blessed.